I'm glad I'm on this side of the table. Do you want me to hold it?
Yes, please.
Check 1, 2, test.
Being a little bit more relaxed in sort of like lean a little bit more this way. Like
Sure.
To the sofa.
Why don't I do that?
If it's okay. If you want to take away the pillow, or I don't know.
Wait, I'm just going to get those jeans a little more malleable.
Like that. That's perfect.
Cool.
Perfect. And the sound is good. So
Great, and mine as well, yeah? If I keep it, no, I do not.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Good. We're on.
Good. So what's this like? Are you excited?
This?
Yeah? Doing the
This
promotions? I mean, no.
Yes, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to share this snapshot of this time in my life with people.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. But isn't it, it's the 4th time you're doing it? Promoting
This kind of promotional tour?
Yeah?
Feels like about the 4th or 5th time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's that like, actually? What happens during the process of this? How do you make it more comfortable for yourself?
It's actually a defining process for
Yeah?
me. The more questions I'm asked, the more I'm able to formulate a really clear answer. You know, from one interview to the next, I actually get more clarity about what my opinions are and my thoughts. It's a gift to me too. At the same time.
So you see it like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And also, it must be quite like it's a bit premature to go out with an album that's you only just recorded. You haven't played it live.
I actually have played some of them live already.
You have?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. On tour? Or?
Yeah, we played South America. We've been touring regardless of whether we have a record out at this point, just to pace ourselves a little bit more.
Okay, so you've been working all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we toured South America. We toured Europe a little bit. That's at that point that I was cutting my hair a different length every show. But I like touring in a more gray area way rather than just concentrated amounts of time, record tour. That was getting a little bit too much.
But how do you get the time to do all the other things in between? I mean, the movies and the TV series and the theatre plays. And
I usually just kind of compartmentalize everything. I schedule it so that I'm focused on writing songs at one point, and then focused on activism, and then I focus on shooting a cameo or whatever it is, and I just make sure they don't overlap.
But how do you do that? How do you have an assistant, or do you have your own file of facts where you?
I do own a calendar. Well, I have 2 amazing assistants that I work with, and a manager who's really sensitive to the fact that I don't want to become the workaholic that I once was. So, yeah.
So you're actually able to pace yourself and have a good time.
Yeah, it's the only way I can do it and still be joy-filled. Otherwise I'd resent it. So.
Yeah. Listening to your new album, I think they're also extremely personal, but then again they're not private. Is that something that you do deliberate?
Well, my goal over the last few years in particular has been to be more and more transparent in my day-to-day life and in my music just by default. So I still feel like there's still more that I haven't even begun to delve into that I look forward to sharing, and my purpose for sharing it would be to allow people to either feel inspired or comforted or, validated by hearing that they're not alone in whatever experience they may relate to in my writing. So.
Yeah. Is that a big part of it? Because many people say that they don't actually think, when I interview artists, they don't see it like that. That there is a communication. They leave it to the audience to listen and interpret. Or
yeah, I mean, I leave it to everyone to listen and interpret in whatever way they want. I think the act of my sharing my humanness, whatever emotions may be in the songs, that act is one that, the only purpose I can see in doing it publicly would be to offer that comfort or offer something for them to define themselves in accordance to. Because otherwise, I would just write it in my journal and it would be finished. So
it's your journal for the world.
Yeah.
Nice. Maybe we should start doing that, all of us. Could be quite frustrating. But where do you draw the line? What doesn't go into the journal?
There is no line.
There isn't?
No. And so I think I take a little bit more consideration into something when I'm considering someone else's privacy, because I can't presume that their aspiration is to be as transparent as I have. But but I also think there's such a distinct difference between privacy and secrecy. So I really don't want to be secretive because it implies that I'm ashamed of certain parts of myself. So, so privacy I respect, you know, more so others than my own, and I certainly have limits and boundaries that I place just to take care of myself. But I do aspire to be completely visible and transparent. I think it would be a very peaceful way of living, and the more I've done it, the more peaceful I've become. So it's good.
Amazing. Do you think that has something to do with Jagged Little Pill? You know, that you all of a sudden got this. I've noticed all my girlfriends. When I said I was going to meet you, ask her why she's not that angry anymore. You know why? Because she gave us a voice. You know, in a very important period, not only in life but also in history, where women sort of, you know, you were top of some kind of wave. They say.
Yeah.
Do you think that has something to do with that you want to share, that you got that kind of audience?
Yeah, I think at first my main motivation was to just express myself because I'd repressed myself for so long. So that was my main intention, and then when I saw that so many people related to it, my purpose shifted a little bit in continuing to share songs publicly, because I saw that it was something that people were really connecting with in similar ways that I would connect with other artists alone in my living room. So, but in terms of the anger, I just feel like I'm channeling it in different ways. You know, it's such an amazing force. It can be channeled in my, you know, in my case, in my experience, through art, through punching a pillow, through communicating, through physical activity. You know, it's a real passionate force. So I'm just channeling it into activism and those kinds of things now, because the act of, you know, allowing my anger to keep me pointing the finger and blaming other people for the rest of my life is not really a stance that I'd like to continue, you know, for the rest of my life.
But at that time, do you see yourself as a spokesperson for a lot of women your age? And
I've become more comfortable with that role now. There was a period of time where I was very resistant to that because it felt like such a huge pressure. You know? But now I see it as, you know, my purpose. So I feel aligned with that, and I feel very, you know, humbled by being in the position that I'm in to share with people.
Why do you think that you also, to begin with, and people in general, doesn't like that, you know, that people say that you're a role model? Or
Right. It puts too much pressure on the person to be a certain way. You know? I think us human creatures don't like to be put into a box or told that we have to take on a role that we ourselves may not have consciously chosen. You know? So, but now that I feel like I am choosing it of my own accord and my own free will, I feel like I'm clicking into feeling aligned in a way that I don't know I've ever been. So,
do you find that, is that only women, or do you have men fans who respond to the same way?
It was interesting. After Supposed came out, the record after Jagged Little Pill, I came out on stage on one of my club tours and one of the first shows, and I walked out and the entire audience was 40-year-old men. So I have no sense of who listens to my music or who comes to the shows. It just changes all the time depending upon where I am. So I don't really focus on, you know, what age range as such I'm connecting with. It's not really in my hands.
No, and you're growing up anyway, so in public. What about, is it tough actually to voice your opinions? Do you find that, do you get response from people, negative response about doing it, that you shouldn't use your scene as a place to promote? Or
I get everything. I get people hating it, loving it, not really caring in it either way. So
but do you see that, like in the music industry today, with Idol and everything manufactured, you find your position even more important?
Sure. I mean, I've always felt it to be important, but I also feel, you know, if someone's motivated by singularly performing, that's an amazing form of self-expression too. It doesn't, you know, I don't think every artist has to have an agenda or a political agenda, or, you know, we're all, you know, defining ourselves. So certainly I relate to the motivation being performing, because that's a huge part of why I do it too. So,
who were your motivators when you were younger? Who did you look up to?
When I was quite young, the first concert I went to was a woman named Jane Siberry. She's a Canadian artist, and I remember being blown away by her. You know, her just stream of consciousness, her performance. I was just blown away. And then as I got older, I listened a lot to Tori Amos, and I listened to Seal, those kinds of artists, as I grew through into my late teens.
Do But did that signing with Maverick, did that have anything to do with Madonna and her being in the position she were and carving a niche for women?
Yeah, she's certainly been a motivating force for me since I was a young person. And Maverick just really connected with my songs. Guy O'Siri, who's the A&R person at Maverick, I think he heard Perfect and You Ought to Know. And I was in the middle of writing a song called All I Really Want, and I just went in my sweatpants to meet him. And I just felt like he understood my music. It also probably has something to do with the fact that he's my age, so I think he heard something in them that he connected with. So I felt seen, and it was a no-brainer for me to sign with them.
And you're happy to stay with them? Yeah. Good. Back to the album, the title, So-Called Chaos. All your titles are sort of cryptic to many people. But do you spend loads of time on thinking of what you're going to call them?
No, what I do typically is I'll print out all the lyrics of the record when it's finished, and I'll just read through it, and a lot of times, you know, a grouping of words will jump out at me. It's a very intuitive process, so that one jumped out at the end.
And that happens all the time?
Yeah.
What about the running order?
The way I write sequences or come up with sequences is I'll go song by song, and I'll have a blank piece of paper, and I'll just put them where I think they want to come, regardless of their interaction with each other. And then by the time I've put every song where it wants to be on the paper, it's in a certain order. And that's how I've done it every time.
The singles, do you pick them yourself?
I used to.
Yeah?
I don't really care anymore because I love each of the songs equally, so I'm not really that invested. And I don't have a sense of what would be an appropriate first single anymore anyway, so...
Why?
Good question. I don't really understand why, but that just might mean that I'm less invested somehow. I don't know.
Yeah. So you just leave it to others. And
yeah. I mean, I have a sense of which ones I would love to share first. In this case, it was Everything and 8 Easy Steps.
Yeah.
I didn't care which one.
Okay, so you have a say.
Yeah.
But what kind of meters do you have around you, except the record company and stuff? Do you play it to family and friends and?
Yeah, I play it to my boyfriend and my family, and at first I don't play it very often.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm a fan of playing music when it's finished. But some people that I feel very intimate and connected with, I'll play it during the process of writing. It's a very vulnerable thing.
Yeah. What is it like actually? Have you been playing with Fire earlier, with their earlier albums, that you played it to people that you shouldn't have played it to and got there?
Well, feedback is such a sensitive, crazy thing because, you know, there's a fine line between criticism and feedback. So I'm a huge fan of feedback. Someone saying, I don't get this, or this isn't my favorite song, or I love this, or whatever. But critiquing as such, as a concept in general, I've never connected with. I just don't see the value in it. It's not going to actually help anyone get anywhere. So if someone understands the vulnerability of my showing it to them, and they're open to just giving honest feedback that is coupled with love, you know, then I'll show it. Then I feel safe.
Why are you acting as well as performing, being a musician?
It's part of what I've loved since I was a little kid. I just was a huge fan of, you know, expression, dancing, acting, singing, painting, writing poems, speaking, you know. Yeah, huge fan of expression.
So acting comes natural?
Scares me, but that's part of why I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I feel familiar and passionate about writing songs. Acting is something that's terrifying to me. So that's why I want to do it.
Yeah. So what's the terror in it? What's terrifying with it?
That's a good question. It's just unfamiliar for me. It's definitely a territory that is, you know...
Has it something to do with control, that you have to...
The surrender?
Yeah?
I think there's a huge element of you know, not being self-conscious when you're in front of the camera. When I write songs, it's an incredibly vulnerable, surrendered state. But I'm alone. I'm insulated, you know. And when I do it on stage, I've gotten to the point where I'm so familiar with the songs, and I have the company of my bandmates with me. So, you know, while it may look like a vulnerable act being up on stage, it's not as vulnerable as some might think. You can hide behind the lights, and I used to hide behind my hair. But being in front of a camera, you know, there's something really subtle and vulnerable about that I'm definitely up for, but it's a little scarier.
Yeah, and also, makes sense. So your hair cutting has to do with you growing up and showing yourself, so you're going to end up with a bald head.
That's right.
Yeah, with mohawk in there.
Yeah, that's next.
Excellent. But the last project you did, a musical.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's a story of Cole Porter's life, and Kevin Kline's playing it, and Irwin Winkler directed it, and just a cameo, dancing and singing in it, sort of loosely based on a character, loosely based on Ethel Merman and Cole Porter's relationship with her.
Oh, that's amazing. But she's such a giant in the States. How dare you?
How dare I?
Yeah. No, that could be quite harsh, you know, but there's so many fans of hers.
I say loosely.
Loosely. Excellent. Cool. You just shot a video and you just saw the first rushes.
Yeah.
Are you how involved are you in the creative side of your album?
It varies. I mean, in terms of videos, you mean? It varies. Some videos I've directed the whole thing from start to finish. Others I've co-directed, and others I've had absolutely nothing to do with other than showing up. So this one was collaborative near the tail end of it. We saw a video for a song called Bonito, a Spanish video with a sweet band, and the lead singer and his brother came over and collaborated with the director that we worked with. So we all four of us sat around and brainstormed ideas over the phone and in person. And then we shot it.
Why Bonito? Why did you?
Such a charming video. This is a man named Pau, who's the lead singer. Just so cute, and his physical, you know, how he was physically in it, and the song was so charming, and the interaction with people, and it was just a really charming video. So we were very inspired by it.
So does it look anything like it?
It has a similar sense. It's a completely different song. So
yeah. But. It reminds me, when you say that, it reminds me a bit of Ironic in a way. Because the playfulness with, you know, the four girls.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a simplicity to it that resembles that energy. Yeah, definitely.
What's your favorite songs? Do you change that on the album? Do you have do you listen back to it now when you're doing promotion tours?
I haven't listened to it lately.
Yeah.
But you know, I'll listen to it every once in a while. When I finish mixing it and we're finished producing of it, I usually step away for a while because it's the last thing I want to hear. Yeah. But then when I haven't heard it in a while, or if I have a little bit of an identity crisis moment where I don't know who I am or what I'm doing here, I'll throw a CD in sometimes and it'll remind me pretty quickly. So.
Can you play your old albums as well to what do I feel? What am I like?
I haven't listened to it in a long time. I haven't heard Jagged Little Pill in years.
Yeah.
But I would. I mean, we're also playing them live, so the songs themselves in their new incarnation are in my consciousness all the time, but I don't listen to the CDs. But I would. I mean, I'm not opposed to it.
You also recorded an acoustic album. When is that due to be released?
I'm not sure when it's coming out. My guess would be that it'll come out at some point this year.
Yeah.
But I actually went into a studio in Vancouver to record B-sides for So-Called Chaos, and 3 or 4 of them at best, and we got going and did 14 of them. Couldn't stop.
And so it becomes acoustic greatest hits?
I don't know about greatest hits. It's sort of the last few years. Yeah. Because we did the Unplugged record where it really focused on the first, 2 or 3 records, and then this one's focusing on the last 3.
So it's not all the hits from the first.
You Ought to Know is on it.
Yeah.
I think that might be the only Jagged Little Pill song. Yeah.
Was that like to revisit these songs acoustically?
It's great. It was like particularly for songs that are really electric and angry or overtly kind of urgent. Yeah. It breaks them down to the more vulnerable emotions underneath it. Yeah. So that I love, and it also can just completely change the flavor of the song. So.
But do you find that it's not like You Ought to Know, which is such a powerful song? Is it more romantic or simpler? Or?
There's a vulnerability to that song that I think sometimes is missed. It's so easy to consider anger to be the one emotion. But whenever I experience my anger or see someone else's in a song or otherwise, I always know that underneath it there's a sadness. Because I've just seen it as the driving force in my own experience. So that song, the acoustic version, allows that sadness and vulnerability to come out.
Do you think that your fans will see that too? Understand? Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, they can.
Yeah. If they like. Spineless is quite a strong statements or the lyrics. Where does that come from?
Over the last couple of years, I've very much focused on becoming whole as opposed to good, you know, and that just means, you know, accepting my stupid and my smart side, and my strong and vulnerable side, my wise and completely unconscious side, you know, and so in Spineless, you know, I've sort of taken on this persona over the last many years of being a radical feminist and very empowered and very forthright, and you know, some of that is because I enjoy those qualities in me, and another aspect of it is that I'm compulsively trying to avoid the part of me that is weak and spineless and, you know, voiceless and disempowered. And my thought and my experience has been that if I embrace that side, there's more of a balance that comes into my life, and then I can choose what aspect I want to access in any given moment, as opposed to always feeling like I have to choose the feminist answer, you know? So it just keeps me from being split off. I feel more balanced.
But feminist, do you think you have to become or be a radical feminist to understand this? You have to go all the way first to actually to realize.
My experience is that the pendulum often does have to swing to both ends in order to swing and dangle in the middle. It'd be great if it didn't have to, and maybe some people don't have to go all the way there, but in my life I've had to go to both ends to reach the middle.
But you're comfortable and happy. You were happy the last time I met you too, and you're still there.
Yeah.
Seems like it, yeah.
In this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends when you catch me.
But that must be quite hard actually to know that you have so many weeks ahead of you. What do you do if you get to a state where you're not very comfortable?
I pace myself.
You do, yeah?
Yeah, if I start burning out, that means I need to go watch a movie or go eat some ice cream or go play poker, or just tune out. Yeah, and it's about rejuvenation for me. If I keep giving without rejuvenating, I just resent the whole process. And equally, if I'm just resting for too long and not expressing or, you know, putting something out energy-wise, then I feel that feels kind of awkward for too long too. So it's about just keeping it balanced.
Sounds interesting, but it sounds like you're very busy. Are you happy when you're busy? I mean, you took a lot of time out after Jagged Pill.
Yeah. Sometimes I read my bio and I read it and I think, wow, it looks like I'm working all the time, but I'm actually not.
You're not?
You know?
No.
No, I mean, I work really hard when I work, but I also rest really hard when I'm resting. So. But it's taken a while for me to be comfortable in my resting state.
But what's rest for you? Is that actually to be creative as well?
That's where I get my biggest inspirations from, when I'm silent or sitting in my backyard with the birds. That's when ideas come. So if I don't have that rest, I don't have that which fuels all my work time. You know, so.
But so you don't write, you actually sit down and are disciplined and write? Or do you do both?
I typically don't write songs for sometimes a period of 2 years. And I'll just write in my journal and live life and experience things and take trainings and courses or go visit family or do whatever. And then I'll wake up one morning and a voice in my head will say, it's time. And I'll drag my ass into the studio and just start writing. And I never get writer's block because I don't overwrite. I think writer's block is when you don't give yourself a break.
But don't you play with words and you play with, you know, the English language. Don't you have notes in your pockets and scribble down things? Yeah. And so you have them with you when you start writing?
I always have my journals. Yeah. And sometimes when I'm writing in my journal, if there's an idea that comes up that I want to keep for when I go back in the studio, I'll put a little star next to it. And then when I'm in the studio, I'll flip to those pages. And sometimes that will spawn a song. And other times I just go in with nothing and see what comes out.
What's the weirdest idea you had, or where you picked up an idea for a text line, or that you wrote down in your journal?
The one that I think of off the top of my head is the title for Knees of My Bees. It's something that I always thought and shared with my boyfriend about him. So I wrote it down on a piece of paper and I threw it in my journal, and then a few months later when I was in the studio I brought that out and it became the title and the main theme of that song. So.
Nice. You actually you produced the last album yourself, but then you went away from that this time. Why?
I hate producing. No, I'd rather stick needles in my eyes than be in the studio for 24 hours a day. So I mean, it's enjoyable, and I needed to prove it to myself, probably for feminist reasons and all kind. I mean, it's a very patriarchal industry, if not, you know, society. So I basically wanted to prove it to myself, and it was great out of curiosity to see what the record would sound like if I did it on my own. But I think my energy is better spent on other things rather than trying to get a really great sonic-sounding drum sound for 4.5 hours. I'll let the other people do it who are really great at it and are passionate about it.
But it went well. I mean, the last album...
It was great.
Yeah?
It was an incredible experience. I was just really burnt out.
Yeah.
I don't want to get to that place again. I like collaborating too. So.
Yeah. But could you actually produce someone else?
No.
No?
No, I have no desire. I could support someone else, but producing them... No. There's a lot of people out there who were born to produce. Yeah. I'm born to co-produce.
What about writing for others?
I love writing for movies. Yeah. Like if I see a movie and I'm inspired by the story or the character, I can, through my own voice, write from what I imagine to be their perspective. So that's great. In terms of writing a song for another person, I've never really even considered it.
Why?
I don't know. It just seems weird. I write so autobiographically that I'd really have to spend time with them. But the inspiration for me to write on behalf of someone else, I would probably just rather encourage them to write autobiographically than me write for them.
So you have a writer's class instead.
Yeah, I'd be like, I'll just support you to write about yourself.
Yeah. But it seems like many of the people that are manufactured, they're co-writing now.
Right.
And it sounds like they actually have someone that says, that just sit next to someone and who actually is writing.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good way of learning?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different ways that people can be inspired to write about themselves. I myself was inspired by a couple of people that said, I was writing a song one day, and this was at a point where I wasn't writing very autobiographically, and the collaborator I was working with said, what do you really feel about this? And I remember thinking, oh God, this is like a turning point. I could write fictitiously, or I could write the truth right now. Yeah. And I wrote the truth, and it was really vulnerable, but it was amazing.
And you're never going back?
Apparently not.
Would you like to, you've been acting, would you like to direct? You've been directing videos, but...
at some point.
Yeah, artistically, where do you see yourself going?
I'll always write records and songs and tour and play live. I'd love to do some more acting and dancing. And I'm in the midst of writing an outline for a book that I'd like to write over the next year or two. Yeah, so... What
kind of book?
It's really a book focused on self-care and different philosophies and rituals, and I'd love for it to be a book that people would consider reaching to grab if they were having a rough moment or beating themselves up.
So where do you find inspiration for that? Do you study yourself?
Yeah, I've been studying since I was 9 about these kinds of things. I've always been very fascinated with the human condition and emotions and psychology. I think if I wasn't doing this, I'd probably have a PhD. in psychology.
In psychology. Yeah. So it's not a religious...
Well, they go hand in hand, So spirituality, less religion and more spirituality,
I mean, you played God, didn't you?
Been there. A lot of research for that role.
Excellent. Touring. Have you got any plans of coming to Europe and specifically Norway?
I'd love to. I'm going to most probably do a club tour preceding the release of the record, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. And then in the summer, I'd like to come back. Yeah. So I'm not sure if it's going to include Norway, but that'd be great. Yeah. With
your mohawk, of course.
Yes, that's
obviously.
The next step. Yeah. And you have a band named Magnet that comes from Norway, right? Yeah. Amazing.
Do you like him? Yeah.
Love.
It's a one-man band. Yeah.
Is it?
Evan is called.
Right.
He's a very, very nice bloke.
Very, very great music.
Good.
Yeah.
Where did you discover him?
A friend of mine in Los Angeles. I was doing a song with a band called Ekova, and he knows my taste, so he just handed me a CD. And at that point, I'm not even sure they had a record deal, or maybe they were just finishing their record. And my boyfriend and I were listening to it nonstop for the last few months, and then just recently... Warner Germany gave me a copy of the finished record, and I was very excited.
Nice. What's your favorite song?
God, all of them. I don't even know the titles, to be honest, which is kind of terrible for a songwriter to admit that, but I love all their songs. The whole record is amazing.
How cool is that? I've got his number, so I'm going to text him afterwards and tell him.
Good work.
Yeah.
That's the
Nice.
point.
Yeah.
Cool.
He lives there.
Yeah, he lives here. Yeah, no, he moved back to Norway actually. He has got 2 babies.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so he said, no, I'm going to live out in the countryside. And his parents are mad. So he wanted the babies to share that madness with the parents.
Madness.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Good work.
Yeah. I saw him. He's actually playing London. Well, I just saw it in New Musical Express. So he might be around now. I'll show you. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But I think that's it. That's half an hour.
All right.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Thanks.
Great. Fun. Let me see. Oh, that's nice that you like him. I've got a live show and he just played the show. Let me see.
Wow, cool.
And he's the nicest bloke at that.
Love that.
Yeah. Very nice.
2 babies.
Yeah?
God bless them.
There you go.
Oh,
It's
shit, no way.
February. No, it's in London tomorrow.
Isn't it?
13.
The
Today.
Because tonight. He's here tonight. Playing tonight.
No way.
Dude.
Wanna go?
Yeah. It's sold out, but maybe we
No, yeah, you can sort that out. Should I try to ring him?
Sure.
You gotta take these guys out to dinner.
We can bring them to see a band.
Sure.
Do you want to?
Yeah, oh, but he's so nice. I mean, I saw him 2 weeks ago and he's so mellow and nice.
Do you want to?
I'm totally up for that.
I would. Why don't we have? Yeah.
Let me just try to ring him.
tonight. Do you know what time? Does it say?
No, it probably, yeah, it must be.
Let's check that. That's Betty. What are the chances?
You were meant to go and see that.
And I just got that magazine today, you know, so,
Oh, I got cool.
you know.
If they're playing late.
Where is it? I could probably do the Warner's thing. I could probably get.
Yeah, it's Warner.
Do you know where it is? Do you know where the gig is? Hang on.
It says, no, where is it? There you go.
Magnet.
London Bush Hall.
Is it?
Bush Hall, Shepherd's Bush. Yeah, do you want me to give?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to ring him directly, Magnet, because I know him.
Okay, and then you can just stick it.
Straight in.
Just on things like that.
Let's hope he answers. No, it's been boring for 3 days.
Oh,
Yeah.
from the
Your head off. You meet Sarah. Hi, thanks, Andy.
yeah.
Jag kan faktiskt göra det när jag är 47. Hold on 2 seconds. Hej Ellen, det är Per. Du är i London och så har jag varit en intervju av Alanis Morissette. Och så är hon din stora fan. Och så lurar hon på kan den komma på konsert ikväll? Of course you can come to his concert tonight.
Cool.
How many people?
Would you guys be up for it?
Five of
Fem.
us.
5 ja. Och så du bara sett på Alanis. Nej, jag reser hjem. Jag visste ju inte det. Ja, det var idiotiskt. Men jeg så det ikke, for jeg hadde henne med, så begynte hun å snakke om det. Og så sier jeg det at, hallo, han er jo her i kveld. Ja. Ja, jeg gir dem nummeret ditt, så kan de ringe deg etterpå. Hvis de vil, ja. Supert. Vi snakkes. Ja, ha det. So I'll give you his number so you call him afterwards.
Great.
He'd love to talk to you, and yeah. Of course Alanis Morissette can come to my concert.
That's great.
And he's like, are you there? What are you doing there? Are you coming? And I'm heading back, you know. Stupidly. Where did I put my pen? Do you have a pen? Yeah. So this is Norwegian number.